Hello, welcome to LWV Presents Insights and Perspectives, a program brought to you by the League of Women Voters of San Jose and Santa Clara, a public affairs program that helps us introduce to you and to our members some key issues that affect us here in our area. But today we want to spend a little time talking about something that's very special to the League of Women Voters. Every 2 years, the State League in California meets, and here with us today is the president of the League of California, Jenny Waggoner. Jenny, welcome to LWV
Thank you so
Presents.
much for having me.
Well, it's been an exciting time, and of course, what perhaps our audience does not realize is the convention was actually held here in San Jose and was hosted by our league, so we're very proud of that. But it's an important time, and it's a business time too. So having you tell us a little bit about what happened, why it's important, and also what transpired, because this will affect the work of the league in the 2 years ahead. So tell us a little bit, Jenny, about, this is the 65th convention.
That's correct.
Tell us in your mind what you think is important about why it's important for all the leagues across the state to come together.
Well, there's a long history of League of Women Voters members coming together. It's some of the most influential people in the state of California working together to make our state better. So it's exciting, it's inspiring, it's a time to network, but we also conduct business together. We're far and away one of the most grassroots-oriented organizations in our state. And so when our members come together, they actually decide what we're going to do. And because the League is such an influential organization, they therefore decide some of the things that are going to be happening in our state over the next 2 years. So it's a lot of excitement and enthusiasm. It's a fun time, as you know, being the host.
Yes.
But it's also pretty important for the future of California.
And we say California, not just the league, because so much of what the league does can affect and impact what happens in our government here in California.
So across the state, there are almost 70 local leagues that are working to try and engage citizens, politicians, business, all sorts of people in thinking about the problems we face today. And when you bring people together who are passionate, with a commitment to hearing from everyone, being very inclusive and trying to come to consensus, amazing things can happen.
Well, and something very important, and I think most of the public knows it, but it's also important to remind people that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We never support any candidates, but we do take positions on issues, and that's important, and in this way affects California, its politics, and I know in the November elections last year, a lot of the ballot measures were important to the league.
Well, how many people have you heard say that they're frustrated by how partisan politics are?
Yes.
They're tired of the parties, they're tired of people choosing extremes. The value of the league is that we try and bring people together regardless of their views. So first of all, we're a safe forum for people of very different viewpoints, particularly for people that are intimidated by the political process. Right now, almost 2/3 of California doesn't regularly participate in civic life through voting. And that's troubling for, I mean, as you know.
It's bad for democracy.
Yeah, it's really
bad
troubling.
for democracy if people are not participating.
So creating a way that people can get introduced to civic life, where they realize that it doesn't have to be a fight between two sides,
And
that
right
you can
now
come
it's
together.
awful because it's so ideological, and the airways are filled with people on the extreme left or right, and it seems that what we're missing is what used to be civic and civil discussion about important issues. This is our country, this is our state, this is our future, and we need sane voices.
Well, that was one of the things we did at our convention, is we hosted workshops and caucuses on particular issues. So healthcare, money in politics, technology and voting. People could meet at our convention and have presentations by experts, as well as share their own views. So after convention, they could go back into their local communities and have similar discussions, bringing the rest of California into those important topics.
One of the workshops that I attended at this convention that I found very interesting for me was a workshop on water, but it was presented by the Southern California leagues from the LA area, the San Diego area, the San Joaquin area, and they were talking about water in a different perspective because they were looking at it from the south. And I know the northern position, I think, but it was really important for me because these were perspectives I hadn't heard.
That's one of the fun things about being in an organization that's grassroots, is that you can hear from communities that are more towards the agricultural areas. You can hear from large cities.
And that was a perspective that I don't know. I don't personally know, and that is the agricultural perspective. My views are so much shaded being a person who lives in a big urban city, so it's really important. It was really wonderful to hear from my sisters who are members of the League, who are trying to be open and bring both sides of the story to me.
So I'm curious, was that particular discussion very heated?
Actually, no, it wasn't heated because we were really given a lot of information. And in the question and answer period, yes, there was a little bit of heat and discussion. But I think that League people tend to want to try to understand and not just argue.
That's great to hear.
Yes, and one of the things that I think is important is that it is representing women from all across the state, women and men, of course.
Women and men.
But largely women, and that's a very special environment that we can come together with people from different walks of life. I mean, there are people there from small towns.
I think that part of what I really appreciate about the League is that since its founding, it's really been an organization that believes in having everyone participate. And because it started off that way, I think a lot of the structures, the values that are in the culture of the League make it easier for people who maybe aren't at the center of things in their own community, who feel excluded, who feel like they can't find their voice. They can come into the League and really feel like they have a home, that people want to hear from them and want them to be included.
And people in the League are not, they're not advocates of any particular point of view. We try to be open. At least that's what I want, because I want to hear both sides, because I don't have all the answers.
Well, the League has an interesting process, and one of the things we did at convention is that we ended up approving a study, which was an effort from the floor. Our process for how we decide our priorities is fairly involved.
Yes,
it starts many months in advance, where we survey our members to find out what's important to them. They meet in groups in their local leagues. They make recommendations to the state league, and then the state league summarizes that and sends it back to the local leagues before a convention. They all review that, and then when we come together in person, we actually vote on those recommendations. So in our recommendations, there was no study, but from the floor at convention, people proposed doing a study of higher education in California.
And that was pretty exciting, because that was a very close vote.
It was exciting for you. It was a little stressful for me, because I was adjudicating over all of it as the chair, but it was really fun to see League members arguing their point and saying why people should vote.
In a very orderly fashion, too. A very orderly fashion. There was never any putting down, there was never any yelling or screaming or loud voices. This was an orderly fashion, and that's important.
I feel like people tried very hard to understand what was put before them, and I'm pleased to see that so many League members I've talked to said that it was a positive experience for them, that being involved in a dispute within the League, I mean, you could consider it a dispute, was exciting.
Different points of view.
They felt very well prepared, they felt like they understood what they were voting on, and they could cast their vote in a way that expressed what they wanted to see happen.
Well, in order for people to really understand convention, we've got some photos of convention that we want to take a look at, and these are photos taken to give us a flavor of what convention looks like. Starting with our logo. The logo is my league leading the charge for change, an appropriate title for something happening here in Silicon Valley. And we had a lot of people who are volunteers here. Here are a couple of people from Santa Clara County who are volunteering at convention.
And there I am presiding over the events, and the parliamentarian and secretary are next to me to help keep things on track. I really needed their help because there was a lot going on from the floor.
Unseen also was a timer on the floor who would let us know. Well, this looks like Ernie Ting. Ernie is on the staff, but he's our Smart Voter staff person. And this is a workshop on Smart Vote. I learned an awful lot about the new website that we're coming up with to help give voters new information.
And here are people lined up at the mic preparing to speak about one of the motions on the floor. So they're each given a certain amount of time to talk, so everybody can hear what they think before the vote's taken.
This was one of two podiums. We had a pro and a con podium, and timers.
I'm so thrilled that Cheryl Gravy from the League of Women Voters of the United States was able to come. She gave a great presentation about leadership and how we teach people within their communities to get more involved. So your experience in the League prepares you to be a leader in your own community, and it's vital to democracy in the United States.
She was an inspiring speaker. It was pretty exciting to be part of this large plenary convention. We had, almost 300 people there.
Yes, we did. It was a very large convention.
Of course, this is a special photo because these are two of the San Jose, Santa Clara members on the left, Sally Pyle and Sandy Morey, who are the co-chairs of the steering committee. And with them is our partner from the California League, Sharon Stone. It was an excellent team. They put together a great convention. Well, this is our last slide. This is the San Jose Santa Clara League.
They deserve a huge round of applause. They did so much work to bring this convention together, and I'm so glad that you offered to do this for us. I mean, we really rely on local leagues to make our convention a success, and I'm blown away by what you accomplished, really.
Well, I think it was very proud for us in San Jose to have the convention here. We had it at the the Hayes Mansion, which is one of the jewels in the city of San Jose. It was a perfect place.
Oh, it was gorgeous.
People kept coming up to me and thanking me for bringing it to San Jose and loved the facility. And it's a historic house and structure, and it was wonderful to share that with people from throughout California.
Well, part of the value of convention is that people can get together and have a good time, and so having it at a beautiful location that people are curious about, they wanted to learn more about San Jose. The tour that you provided was really popular as well. Do you want to tell people a little bit more about that?
Yes, well, that was really wonderful because we were in a neighborhood, so to speak, at the Hayes Mansion. We didn't have an opportunity for a lot of our league members to see the downtown San Jose, so our league put together a dinner, and we had one of our city council members, Clara, who represents the district that we were in, actually leading a tour on a bus. We went to downtown. They got to see all of the sites, go by the museums, the cathedral, and see some of the new development that's happened in San Jose, and then have dinner downtown. So, and also to see our new city hall. And people just had a lot of good questions about how our city works and compared to their cities, and the roles and the functions of the mayor versus the city
I'm sure
council.
their league members, they had a lot of questions.
Oh yeah, I think a council member, Clara, was really surprised at the depth of curiosity and interest in government. I don't think a lot of groups of people have that much interest in government per se. And of course we were happy to have Councilwoman Rose Herrera with us as well at our banquet as well.
Yeah, I was thrilled to get to meet her.
Yes, so tell me now your reaction to convention, Jenny. What do you feel came out of it that was important for us to be thinking about? And of course, we had business. We elected our new officers, and we're glad that you're president again. And we also made some bylaw changes, not a major one, but an important bylaw change. But the real important piece of it were the workshops and the caucuses where people were trained and got a lot of education. But the important thing was really the program, wasn't it?
Well, as I was explaining before, we have this process where we bring people together beforehand and they come up with ideas, the league summarizes them, then the members vote on them. Once they vote on the program, it becomes the priorities not only for the state league, but also for all the leagues that operate within our state. So there's the state league, there's a couple of regional leagues called ILOs or interleague organizations, and then there's the local leagues. They all together commit to working on certain set of priorities. So for the 13 through 15 biennium, we've committed to working on money in politics and education pre-K through 12 as two of our top priorities. So the league at all these different levels is going to be working to provide citizen education, information for government, think tanks, other nonprofits, as well as do advocacy. And that advocacy is only based on studies that we've done by our members where we've formed consensus. So we can't just pick things out of air. The league always has this background of study and consensus
and
that we can then move forward on.
it's a very deliberative process too, isn't it?
Oh,
we're
yes.
going to talk some more about that and learn more about that at greater depth because it's important. But first we're going to take a little break now for a fun fact, just to kind of have a little fun. Well, Jenny, I bet you didn't know that about George Washington.
No, I didn't.
we just have fun with some of these fun facts.
That's great.
Well, now back to some business. You were starting to talk about the specifics of what the program was all about, and we'd like to just kind of emphasize that these are things that throughout the state leagues are going to be doing. But as one of the comments I love that you made at the podium was every league, and there are close to 70 in the state of California, is a little bit different. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, one of the things that I've loved about serving as an elected officer for the State League has been that I get to travel to leagues all over the state. I've been to Humboldt County, I've been to Bakersfield, I've been to San Diego, all up and down our state. And the leagues show me a wonderful time wherever I go, but it can be very different. Some leagues are only doing voter service, so they provide really basic election information.
And voter service is about registering voters and informing voters.
Yep, how to read their sample ballot, what happens when they go to the polls. Sometimes they'll also provide information like the pros and cons on ballot measures, or they'll provide summaries about candidates. Other leagues might do work in multiple languages. So for example, they may produce a voter's guide that shows pros and cons of different ballot measures, summarize the candidates in 2 languages, in 5 languages, even in as many as 10 languages. There are other leagues that are much more focused on particular issues that are hot in their community. So they may provide community education around water because they know that there's a particular issue in their area around it. It could be that there's a treatment facility that's controversial. It could be that they're having rationing. I've heard that that might be happening again in the coming year. And so they focus on that one issue because the league, because we're trusted as being fair and balanced, is one of the few conveners. They can call in people from different views and have them discuss the issues. Other leagues will focus much more on advocacy, where there's plenty of education about an issue, where the community feels really engaged, but the league has been able to, based on studies and forming consensus, draw conclusions about what's best for everyone in their community. A lot of organizations end up representing particular interest groups, but the league really tries to represent the whole community. What can we do for everyone so that we all will rise together?
A good example of this, I know in here in the Santa Clara area, the San Jose Santa Clara League, our league, was really focused on sunshine laws and was very involved with the task force on opening up government. And more recently, we took some positions on the regional habitat conservation plan and testifying at City Hall, encouraging our city to be supportive of that because we have such strong views on the environment, on sustainability, on wildlife corridors, that we could take a strong position encouraging the city to do that. And for me, a strength was that we were the only non-sort of special interest group that was there. There were environmentalists there, people from the Audubon Society, but we were really coming on behalf of a broader constituency. And I think the city council appreciated that.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear.
Well, I think San Jose does a little bit of all of those things, but I can understand that some leagues that I met had very small members, and some were much bigger than we are. So, yeah, each one has their own interest, I guess.
And it's not always tied to size is part of what I find interesting, is that you can go to a league that's very small, but because they've attracted people who are very thoughtful and able to give a lot of time and well respected, they can put on events, discussions, advocacy meetings that are unparalleled. They're just amazing. It really depends on who your members are and what sort of work you choose to prioritize together.
Before we go on to the state program positions, which we have a slide on, just a little bit about how this relates to national. There are 3 levels of league, and I think that's important for people to remember.
Well, when we looked at our priorities, we also selected water and healthcare as secondary ones. We knew that we would also be working on national priorities, and so we looked at what they'd focus on, and when we chose money in politics, it was in part to be in alignment with them. Clearly, it's an important issue, disclosure of where money comes from, holding people accountable for transparency. We get to work on that specifically to our state, but also using the resources, the information, the connections, the campaigns that the National League is using. And I believe that your local league as well has been looking at money in politics.
Yes, we did a program with our chair of the California Fair Political Practices Committee, and Ravel, who was also at convention, and we had a chance to really get into some of the issues around that. And people are very concerned about it. There are also people who think the league should be joining in the move to amend the Constitution because of the concerns about Citizens United. And it's been interesting to me because the League has chosen not to go in that direction. And
Well,
some people are confused about that.
So the League hasn't said that it won't consider that at all, but we don't feel it's the only option. And as you talk with people at different levels of League about the coalitions that are forming, the discussions that are happening, you realize that there's a lot of political negotiations that end up happening. And so although I certainly understand why people are concerned about money in politics and are looking at that as an opportunity, we want to make sure that we can see progress in a lot of different areas. And so, you know,
We certainly are behind a lot in the state here on the Disclose Acts that are.
There's a lot of legislation in California right now.
And we believe that that can go a long way to stemming some of the problems we've been having.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've come to appreciate, because sometimes it seems to me even that the League takes a long time, but maybe this more studied, measured approach in the long term will be better.
Well, I like to think that when the League makes a decision, it sticks. You know, we're not always at the front of the line when it comes to work. Although I really feel that the League has been a leader within California for the last few years. When you look at redistricting, that was a long time coming. We'd been working on that for decades. It really was the life's work of a number of people. But once we knew the direction we were going, we were acting faster than almost any organization, and we consistently were there at all of the hearings, at all of the discussions, when there was input, when there needed to be monitoring. The League stayed on it. So it's not necessarily that we hold back or are shy, but we have processes which get, you know, the power of the League behind an issue, and we really can push on it once we have the whole set of our membership behind us.
That's a wonderful example of how we can be very successful and very impactful in the state and impact the lives. And it's been I've been so proud that it's probably one of the best things that League's done, and it's been recognized nationally as a good effort and a model for the other states. We'd like to go back now to, we have a slide with the program issues. If we can go to that slide now, we can take a look at these program issues that were voted on at convention.
So we have money in politics, which we were already discussing. Education is pre-K through 12. We have a committee that's working on that. There's information on our website, and I'm sure your local league has already been working on it for quite a while.
Yes.
Healthcare and water were both selected as lower priority issues, in part because we want to keep, you know, clear on what our top priorities are. But we really care about the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, as well as pushing for single payer within the state of California. And then water, we know that there may be a ballot measure in 2014, so we want to make sure that what is a very contentious issue is understood by people all around the state, so that other people can have the opportunity that you did.
And then speaking of the one thing that came out of convention that was unexpected was really the decision to go with a study, and that's a big commitment of time.
It is, it is. So when we adopt a study, we recommend that it's usually 3 years. So this is now kicking off this summer a 3-year process by which a study committee is formed.
And this will be on higher education.
It'll be on higher education, public higher education. That committee will be selected by the board probably around January of 2014. The committee will then put together a study kit. There'll be a reading list produced so local leagues like yours and others around the state can start reading books about public higher education, attending events, hosting speakers, having local community group discussions, so that we can then dive into the study kit, which is really meaty. The last one was for initiative and referendum, and it was 110 pages, something like that.
Yes, that created a lot of excitement and interest in our league, a lot of points of view on that.
So eventually, the groups will come together, the local leagues will go through the study kit. They'll have their consensus meetings where they actually mark off where they agree on policy reform, where they don't. Those recommendations will go back to the state league, and then at a future convention, they'll look at the summary that has come out of it and vote on what they would like to implement.
And with this study behind us and with this knowledge that we'll have accumulated, we'll be able to also, once we decide on a position, to be able to take strong advocate roles and speak out on issues around higher education, which everyone is concerned about, but right now we don't really know enough about it to speak knowingly about it.
So I would recommend, if anybody's interested in higher education, that they think about getting involved. And of course the other issues as well, because there's a component of education involved with money in politics and with pre-K through 12, as well as healthcare and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the last one.
Water.
Water, thank you.
Well, each of these issues has resources on the California website.
That's correct.
And I think this is a wonderful resource. I have actually worked with high school students here in San Jose who've actually, as part of their civic education, gone to the state website for information as they've developed papers around issues that were on the ballot measure, or I don't know, we did the study on privatization at the national level. We actually had some high school students working with us and learning about it as well. And many say, we'd never have thought about that unless, you know, but you asked us to do this paper on it. And so we were pleased to do that.
Well, so I'm curious, what sort of local events are coming up for people who want to get involved in San Jose?
Well, the league will be involved with, well, you know, we do have to do some fundraising. So we have a fundraising event in September, but we also, on a monthly basis, September through May, we do something called Lunch with League, and we bring in our speakers. And that's one of the primary ways we do some education, as well as occasionally sponsoring events, such as last fall we did a event on the water rate increase here in San Jose and brought in many speakers to talk about what that is and what the Public Utilities Commission is. And so these are all things that are, again, education, voter education and information.
That's great. And so do you have to be a member to go to Lunch with League?
No, you don't. In fact, it's a great way for us to recruit members. Thank you for mentioning it. You know, it's been wonderful, Jennifer, for you to be with us today and to give us some information about the state and about convention. And on behalf of the San Jose League, I do want to thank you for a great convention. You led it very well. I think the 300 people that I was with who were in the plenary session really appreciated the leadership that you provided and the inspiration that you provide.
Well, I want to thank you and the rest of the volunteers because it was amazing what a phenomenal job you did. So please extend my gratitude to them.
Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thank you for being with us, and thank you for joining us. We hope you've learned a little bit about the League of Women Voters, our state organization, how we meet in convention, and think about becoming a member of the League as well. Thank you for joining us, and have a good day.